Dun 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 dun. And yeah, I didn't play the actual Star Wars theme song because then Disney will DMCA it, and I'm tired of getting copyright claims on videos from Disney properties. Nintendo's worse though. Ugh, I love you guys, but you guys drive me crazy. Anyway, this is my top 5 crackpot Star Wars theories video. It will be heavily filled with spoilers. Heavily filled with spoilers. Because I am a Star Wars nerd, and I was not just watching Episode 7, The Force Awakens. I was analyzing it for clues. Which, let's face it, in a 30-year-old fandom is part of the fun, right? So I guess it's older than that. It's been 30 years since Return of the Jedi. It's older than that. I don't want to think about it. But yeah, that's part of the fun. That's part of the fun of seeing at least one of the original trilogy films in theaters. If you were, alive to wait that 2 years for Han Solo to get out of carbon freeze, you know that you have to basically tell stories to yourself or you will go insane, because it's all about the tease. And that leads in to some of my crackpot theories about the Star Wars sequels. I guess we could officially call them sequels now. Hey, but let's get right into the list with number 5. Finn is a Force sensitive. Now, where does this theory come from? 2 things. First of all, as you can see, a lot of people are quite upset that he was able to wield a lightsaber. And in extended Star Wars canon, that can only happen if you're a Force sensitive. But there is another moment much earlier in The Force Awakens where there is a clue that he is also Force sensitive. It is on the battlefield, on that one scene where, very close to when Kylo Ren feels the awakening in the Force, something happens to Finn. And there's an interesting part of Episode 7, if you watch it, that ties into the original reality that Luke Skywalker, is equal parts born hero and made hero. He is a born hero and that the Force is very strong in him. He is a made hero because he chooses to become a Jedi. Just because you're Force sensitive doesn't mean you're a Jedi. And so with Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, there is an interesting back and forth between, for lack of a better term, the lightsaber choosing Rey, but her literally running away screaming from it. Finn chooses to wield it. And I think that's a very, very interesting twist that old Star Wars nerds like me go, ooh, they've split Luke's journey into 2 parts in that way. Now, yes, eventually Rey chooses to go off and find Luke in Ireland. I'm kidding. But Finn picks up the mantle first, and I think that's going to be important going forward. Kylo Ren is trying too hard. Now, this character is super divisive. Either people think he's totally cool, or people think he's a whiny, emo, so-and-so. I think the intention of the character is he is trying far too hard to be overcome by rage and anger, but he's not quite managing it. And the reason I say this is those 2 moments where he goes crazy and starts destroying, smash things. A real full-blown Dark Jedi or Sith, depending on where you want to place the Knights of Ren. I'm not sure where they fall on that spectrum yet. But a Sith, as we know from that, the very first Star Wars movie, or Episode 4, where Vader reaches out and force chokes that guy. Full-blown Sith that have embraced their rage, are powered by their rage, kill people. They take their frustrations out on humans. The fact that Kylo Ren beats up harmless computer equipment tells me he's not quite there. And So my theory is that Kylo Ren is trying to fake it until he makes it. And that comes in to my number 1 crackpot Star Wars theory, but we're not there yet. Number 3, they have absolutely zero clue who Snoke is right now. And I know that's a big flyer when it comes to a Disney property, but not for Star Wars. I mean, we're supposed to believe that George Lucas knowingly had Luke and Leia kiss even though they were brother and sister. Now, we know, well, we claim, based on what we know about the development of the original trilogy now, that Anakin Skywalker was originally supposed to be a different character that, you know, appeared as a projection during Luke's training. He then became Darth Vader. And I think a similar thing is going on with Snoke. Snoke is not much of anything, is he? We don't even know if the projection is an accurate interpretation of how he looks. And it's a half-baked design as well. It looks very, very much like the prophets from Halo. The first thing I thought of is, oh man, it's the freaking prophet of regret, right down to the throne, right? And it just seems to me like this character is not really fleshed out. We don't know who he is, and neither do the people writing the scripts. Now, I am sure that the script for episode 8 is finished now. However, when they went to camera with episode 7, I don't think they really knew who this character was, what his motivations were, and how he plays in. The most telling thing that we have, and this is me projecting, is there appears to be some sort of scar, sizable scar on his head, as if he was hit with an axe or a lightsaber or something like that. That is the biggest point to backstory and character we get, and who knows if that's relevant or not. However, that could have very easily been added in the post-production CGI of the character. So I wouldn't go, deep mining episode 7 for clues on Snoke or his relationship with Kylo Ren, aka Ben Solo, because I don't think they really knew what it was while they were filming it. And that ties in to my second most crackpot theory about Star Wars Episode 7. They have no idea what the deal with Rey's parentage is either. It is so potentially open-ended. There are so many ways they could go with this. And the problem with the way they've set her up, none of it is going to be a surprise. A lot of people have already speculated that she's Han and Leia's long-lost daughter. Now, there's a lot in the film that makes me think that's not it. Most notably Leia going, "Who's the kid?" when she sees her. Now, there's a lot of hints. There's a lot of leading us towards the idea that she is Luke Skywalker's daughter. Again, that is kind of easy and wouldn't be much of a surprise, would it? Now, I think it makes the most sense just because she's got that piloting ability, the trust your feelings piloting ability that Luke showed, and Anakin's tinkering abilities with machines. Now, the only reason I'm not sure they've totally committed to that course yet is that they need the big OMG. And, Ben, I am your cousin is not as impactful as I am your sister or she is your sister. The tie-in to the old movies. But it's possible that because everybody's seeing this coming and they deliberately made her look so much like Natalie Portman in the casting that it is neither. It is some sort of weird midichlorian fake out, and she is another just assemblage of parts, and she actually has no parents. She is another assembly of midichlorians, and that's why she was able to defeat a trained freaking Sith in combat on her first try, and able to do a complicated Jedi mind trick, a 3-step Jedi mind trick with an add-on on her first attempt. I don't think when this film was made, they'd completely committed. I think they're leaving their options open, at least, as things go along. See how she sort of is responded to. I think they're deliberately not pushing it. They're not committing to a course of action because they wanted to see how popular it would be. And is that good art? No, but it's exceptionally smart business. And this movie isn't smashing records all over the place because it's good art alone. But my number one most crackpot Star Wars Episode 7 theory is Han Solo killed himself. Wait, hear me out. You do not see the lightsaber before it engages. You do not see who actually activated it. And you don't see where the relative position between, and I believe he was Ben Solo at this point, Kylo Ren. I believe we were dealing with Ben Solo there, not Kylo Ren at this point. There is more to it than the lack of information to this admittedly crackpot theory. Okay. The setup for Han Solo's death is extremely evocative of the Vader-Obi-Wan duel from Episode 4. The minute I saw the framing, I went, oh shit, Solo's the Obi-Wan of this film. Now, Alec Guinness, at the time of the original Star Wars, was the most famous person in the film. That role now goes to Harrison Ford. He is hands down the most famous popular actor in this film. And that, at the time, people don't remember this because now the cast of Star Wars are all household names. But at the time, the only name recognition people would have, the reason they'd go to see this film was for the actors, was for Alec Guinness. Well, in a lot of ways, it's the same way for Harrison Ford. It's smart sense to hook people with a star and then remove them so they cease to be a distraction for the actors they're trying to build into a new class of celebrity. So, turning Harrison Ford turning Han Solo into the Obi-Wan Kenobi of Episode 7 makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels. Now, it comes down to that, how is striking him down making him more powerful than we could possibly imagine? Well, there are two elements to that. One is, if you don't take the read that Han Solo's death means something in terms of the salvation of Ben Solo, then Han Solo's last act was ignoring what General Leia told him to do, which is if you see our son, bring him home. Now, any smart guy who's in love with a woman like Leia Organa knows you listen to what the woman says if you value your immortal soul, okay? Because she cannot just kill you. She can reach into the beyond and make you miserable forever. She has that much strength of will. And so I think that his actions in that confrontation with his son were intended to set a course of action that eventually, because it's not about physically bringing him home. It's about bringing Ben Solo back from the dark side. We have to bring him back into a light the same way that Anakin was saved by Luke. Now this juxtaposes Anakin Skywalker being saved by his son with Ben Solo being saved by his father. It also saves Kylo Ren's life, because those of you who know Sith Lord training, it's very possible that if he had failed in this critical mission, because it's important to Sith training that the Sith apprentice takes innocent life to sever their link to their past, their personal attachments, and become embodiments of rage and anger and hate and all that stuff. Now, in the extended universe canon that has been wiped out, Jacen Solo, Han and Leia's son, killed Mara Jade, Luke Skywalker's wife, as his killing of an innocent. They usually send them after a family member. for the reasons I outlined before. So this is replacing the killing of Han Solo's son, is replacing to an extent the killing of Jason Solo's aunt. And let's face it, from a personal perspective, killing your dad is a lot more hardcore than killing your aunt. However, the dialogue before that moment is very telling, because it's basically, you know what I have to do. Yes, I'm not sure I can do it. And so I think Han Solo's last act as a potentially crappy father was to save his son's life, both literally and figuratively. He's saving his life by him being able to go back to Snoke and say, it's done, Solo's dead. He's saving his soul by him knowing he couldn't kill his father. And by taking his own life, Han Solo has made it impossible for his son to ever kill his father. He did it for him. And there's a lot of, reverse biblical imagery and all that. There's a lot of juxtaposition between the relationship with Vader and Luke, and the Emperor wanting, Vader to destroy Luke Skywalker. Because don't forget, Vader's still essentially an apprentice in the original trilogy. And so this may sound like a crackpot theory, and I admit it is kind of crazy. It's not what we're supposed to think, but it's very possible. And this is a far more nuanced and developed twist for subsequent films, because Empire had that big moment of, I'm your father, no, it's not true, and he's hanging up the whole thing, and no! And so, we need something. We all know there's a twist coming, and Rey being either Luke or Han and Leia's daughter or whatever, too predictable. So I think that the obvious is a sort of a misdirection for the real twist. Because otherwise it's kind of a crappy death, isn't it? It's just sort of pat and really, this has been done 1,000 times. It's not, it's traumatizing for a lot of fanboys. And I think that there is a bit of, I'm gonna get ya, in the killing off of Han Solo. However, Harrison Ford apparently wanted Han Solo to die before. So my prediction, which was correct going into episode 7, that if they were gonna kill off one of the original 3, Han, Luke, or Leia, it was gonna be Han. So those are my top 5 crackpot theories, maybe not so much, about Star Wars Episode 7, The Force Awakens. And I call them crackpot theories because this is just supposed to be fun. I am not trying to be prophetic. I am just trying to have a bit of fun while we wait the excruciating 500 and some odd days to the next numbered Star Wars film. And if they haven't made up their minds on certain things, like I suspect, maybe someone will see this video and go, hey, that's a good idea. It's possible. It's possible. The Force is strong in this one. Da 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 da.